A stuntman died on set. John Wayne didn't shout. Didn't cry. He just walked into the studio boss's office and said, "You're going to secure this woman's future." That day, Hollywood's rules changed. The fall happened at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in October 1966. Monument Valley. Red dust. Harsh sun. The kind of day where heat makes the air shimmer and every shadow feels like relief. They were shooting a chase sequence for the War Wagon. Horses. Gunfire. The choreographed chaos that John Wayne had filmed 100 times before. The kind of sequence audiences would watch for 3 minutes and forget, but that took days to capture safely. Tom Hendricks was the stuntman. 42 years old. 20 years in the business. He'd doubled for Wayne before. Knew horses. Knew falls. Knew how to make danger look real while keeping it controlled. The sequence called for a rider to take a hit, fall from his horse, and roll clear before the animal's hooves came down. Standard stunt work. Tom had done it dozens of times. But this time, the saddle girth gave way. Not much. Just enough. Tom went sideways instead of backward. His shoulder hit the ground wrong. The horse, trained but frightened, came down on top of him. The sound carried across the valley. A sound that made everyone freeze. The sound of something breaking that shouldn't break. They stopped the cameras immediately. The wranglers got the horse under control. The medics ran across the red dirt with their kit, boots kicking up dust that hung in the still air. John Wayne was 50 feet away, mounted on his own horse for the master shot. He saw everything. He dismounted slowly, deliberately, handing the reins to a nearby grip without looking away from where Tom lay in the dirt. By the time Wayne reached the scene, the medics were already working. Their faces told the story before their words could. Tom Hendricks died 17 minutes later, still lying in the red dust of Monument Valley, surrounded by cameras and lights and the machinery of Hollywood spectacle. Wayne didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. The set went silent. Not the temporary silence of waiting for another take. The permanent silence of everything stopping at once. Someone killed the generators. The lights went dark. Horses shifted nervously in their traces. The crew stood in small clusters, not knowing what to say or do or where to look. John Wayne stood over Tom's body for a long time. Hat in hand. Head bowed. His weathered face showed nothing, but everyone who saw him understood they were watching a man carry weight he couldn't put down. The director approached carefully. "Duke, I'm so sorry. We'll shut down production. Give everyone time to..." "No," Wayne said quietly. "We're not shutting down. Tom wouldn't want that. But we're done for today. Send everyone home. Pay them full wages. Of course. Whatever you need. I need a car. I need Tom's home address. And I need you to find out if he has family." The director hesitated. "Duke, maybe you should." Wayne looked at him. Didn't raise his voice. Didn't have to. The director stopped mid-sentence. "Get me his address," Wayne said again. 30 minutes later, Wayne was in a studio car heading back toward Los Angeles. Still in his costume. Still covered in Monument Valley dust. The driver tried to make conversation once, saw Wayne's face in the rearview mirror, and didn't try again. Tom Hendricks had lived in a small house in Burbank. White paint. Chain-link fence. A lawn that needed mowing. The kind of house a working stuntman could afford. The kind of house that represented stability and safety and the promise of coming home after every job. Wayne knocked on the door at 7:15 p.m. He was still holding his hat. Still wearing dusty boots and the leather vest from the film. The woman who answered was 38 years old. Dark hair. Tired eyes. She was holding a dish towel. Behind her, Wayne could hear a television playing and smell something cooking on the stove. "Mrs. Hendricks?" "Yes? My name is John Wayne. I worked with your husband. May I come in?" Her face changed. Not all at once. But piece by piece, as understanding settled in like cold water rising. The dish towel fell from her hands. "Tom," she whispered. "Something happened to Tom." Wayne nodded slowly. "Yes, ma'am. I'm very sorry. There was an accident on set today. Tom, he didn't make it." She didn't scream. Didn't collapse. She just stood there, hand gripping the doorframe, the world rearranging itself around the absence of the man who was supposed to come home. Wayne waited. Gave her time. Then quietly, "May I come in? I'd like to talk to you about what happens next." They sat at her kitchen table. Plain furniture. Family photos on the walls. A child's drawing held to the refrigerator with a magnet. The television still played in the next room, some games show, laughter and applause utterly disconnected from this moment. "Do you have children, Mrs. Hendricks?" "2," she managed. "David is 8. Sarah is 6. They're at my sister's house tonight." Wayne nodded. "Do you work?" "Part-time. At a bakery. But Tom's income, that's what keeps us." She stopped. Corrected herself with terrible finality. "That was what kept us going. The studio will pay for the funeral," Wayne said. "They'll handle all the arrangements if you want them to. And there will be some kind of settlement. Probably not much. Studios are careful about these things." She looked at him with hollow eyes. "How am I supposed to raise 2 children on bakery wages?" Wayne didn't answer. Because there was no good answer. Because this was the calculation that happened every time someone died doing dangerous work to make safe entertainment. The studio would offer some money. Enough to look generous without setting a precedent. Enough to close the file and move on. "I'm going to do something about this," Wayne said quietly. "I can't bring Tom back. But I can make sure you and your children are taken care of." "Mr. Wayne, you don't have to." "Yes, ma'am. I do." Subscribe and leave a comment. Because the most important part of this story is still unfolding. The next morning, John Wayne walked into the office of Samuel Garrison, head of production at Batjack Productions and the man who signed the checks for the War Wagon. Garrison's office was everything Tom Hendricks' house wasn't. Rich wood paneling. Leather furniture. Industry awards on shelves. Framed posters from successful films. The kind of office that announced power and money before you even sat down. Wayne didn't sit down. He stood in front of Garrison's massive desk, still wearing his dusty costume from yesterday, hat held in one hand, the other resting on the back of the leather chair positioned for visitors. Garrison looked up from his paperwork. "Duke! Christ, I heard what happened. Terrible thing. Terrible. We're handling everything. Funeral costs, death benefit, the whole." "How much?" Wayne interrupted. "How much what? How much is the death benefit?" Garrison shifted uncomfortably. "Standard contract. $5,000. Plus funeral expenses. It's what everyone gets. It's industry standard." Wayne didn't move. Didn't raise his voice. Just looked at Garrison with that unwavering gaze that had stared down 1,000 movie villains. $5,000. Wayne repeated. To raise 2 children. To pay a mortgage. To replace a man's entire income for the rest of his family's life. "Duke, I understand you're upset, but we have protocols. If we set a precedent—" "I don't care about your precedents," Wayne said quietly. "I care about a woman who's going to tell her 8-year-old son that his father isn't coming home. I care about a 6-year-old girl who won't understand why Daddy isn't there for her birthday." Garrison leaned back in his chair. "What do you want me to do?" Wayne reached into his vest pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He placed it on the desk, pushing it across the polished wood until it sat directly in front of Garrison. "I talked to an accountant this morning," Wayne said. "That's a calculation of what Tom Hendricks would have earned over the next 23 years if he'd lived to retirement age. Adjusted for inflation. It's not perfect, but it's fair." Garrison looked at the paper. His face paled slightly. "Duke, this is $75,000. We can't. You can't, Wayne said. You will. Or I don't finish the film. The office went completely silent. Outside, through the closed door, they could hear phones ringing, assistants talking, the normal business of a studio continuing. But in that room, everything had stopped. Away from the cameras, Wayne made a choice no one expected. Garrison stood up. You can't be serious. You're under contract. We have completion bonds. Investors. If you walk, then you'll sue me, Wayne said calmly. And I'll tell every reporter in Los Angeles why I walked. I'll tell them about Tom Hendricks. About his widow. About his children. About how much money this studio makes every year and how little they offered the family of a man who died making that money. Garrison's jaw tightened. That's extortion. No, Wayne said. That's doing the right thing. I'm just helping you see it clearly. He picked up his hat, settled it on his head. I'll be in Monument Valley tomorrow morning at sunrise. Tom's widow will have a check for $75,000 by the end of the week. Those are the only two ways this ends. He turned toward the door. Wayne. John Wayne stopped. Didn't turn around. Just waited. Garrison was quiet for a long moment. Then, how do I know other families won't come asking for the same thing? Wayne turned slowly. You write it into every contract. Every stuntman, every crew member doing dangerous work. You make sure their families are protected. You make sure what happened to Tom Hendricks never leaves a family struggling to survive. That'll cost millions over the years. Then it costs millions, Wayne said. What's the alternative? Keep making movies on the cheap while men die and their families go hungry? You sleep well with that? Garrison sank back into his chair. He looked at the paper on his desk. At the number that would change everything. At the man standing in his office, covered in yesterday's dust, refusing to move. 1 week, Garrison said finally. She'll have the check. Wayne nodded once. Make it cash. Certified check. Deliverable to her personally. Not some lawyer, not some studio representative. I want her to look at that check and know it's real. Fine. Anything else? Yes. Tom's name goes in the credits. Special acknowledgement. In memory of Tom Hendricks, whose dedication to his craft made this film possible. Something like that. The writers can polish it. But his name goes on screen. Garrison nodded slowly. Okay. Done. But what followed would stay with everyone who witnessed it, forever. John Wayne went to Monument Valley the next morning. The crew had assembled quietly, uncertain what to expect. Some had heard rumors about Wayne's confrontation with the studio. Others just knew that a man had died and somehow they were still working. Before the first shot, Wayne gathered everyone together. Cast. Crew. Wranglers. Everyone who had been there yesterday when Tom fell. We lost one of our own yesterday, Wayne said. His voice carried across the red desert without strain. Not loud. Just clear. Certain. Tom Hendricks was a professional. He was good at his job. He died doing what we all do, trying to make something that matters. We're going to finish this film. For him. For his family. And we're going to do it safely. Anyone feels uncomfortable with a stunt, you speak up. No job is worth a life. He paused. Looked at every face. Tom's widow will be taken care of. The studio is doing the right thing. And from now on, every stuntman, every crew member doing dangerous work, your families will be protected. That's the new rule. The crew didn't applaud. They just nodded. That was enough. 1 week later, John Wayne personally delivered a certified check to Mrs. Hendricks. $75,000. He didn't stay long. Didn't make speeches. Just handed her the check and said, Tom took care of you while he was here. This makes sure he still can. Share and subscribe. Some stories deserve to be remembered. The War Wagon was released in 1967. Tom Hendricks' name appeared in the credits. In loving memory of Tom Hendricks, a professional and a friend. Within 2 years, every major Hollywood studio had rewritten their stunt contracts. Death benefits increased 20-fold. Insurance policies became standard. Families were protected. John Wayne never talked about it publicly. Never claimed credit. But every stuntman in Hollywood knew. Every widow knew. Every child who didn't lose their home knew. Wayne carried Tom's accident report in his trailer for the rest of his career. A reminder, not of what had happened, but of what he made sure would never happen the same way again. Dignity doesn't shout. It stands firm. And sometimes, that changes everything.